Good morning. It's first day of the rest of my life right here. This is it. Hi, my name is Tom Green. You may remember me from the Tom Green Show. I got mustard in my eye!
None of your damn business where I'm going.
Okay.
Well, for the last 20 years, I've lived in Hollywood, California. That's my house. And, I sold it. I moved to the country in Canada, a farm, not far from my hometown. That's my dog, Charlie. And I'm making a documentary about my life. Don't make a documentary about your life. It's weird, hilarious, sometimes crazy, sometimes strange, anxiety-inducing, but mostly a relief to be able to tell my story.
Hello, everybody. We are here once again, saving you a seat, as always, to sit next to us on what we're calling the real show, I guess, the realism show, as we're exploring documentaries today.
And I was pretty surprised that we were going this route, but you know what? Now I'm kind of glad we did.
Yeah, let's get it out of our system.
Yeah.
We just saw the trailer for our first film, which is This Is Tom Green, a suggestion from Mr. Bryan Tann. And you know what? I will say one thing about this movie. I'm glad I watched it. I am glad I watched it. I've never been a fan of this man and his comedy.
Me neither.
I
like Freddie Got Fingered for like 5 minutes. And really, when you look at shock comedy and like after watching this documentary, I do want to revisit the movie because there are a lot of things that are the standard in comedy or a different subgenre of comedy that are a thing because of Tom Green, whether you like it or not. You can't blame Tom Green for somebody searching, going where the money takes them.
You know what? For all of this diatribe, and we're going to get into the idea of this movie because this movie is pretty much self-indulgent. Pat me on the back, looking for self-validation throughout most 90% of it, and
strangely plays itself very straight, like very. Yeah. It's not. It's a lot of self-indulgence, but it's not self-deprecating. But it's also not what you would expect. Those of us that are Gen X, that came up in the time of the Tom Green show and Tom Green at his height, it's a lot different than what we were used to. I didn't know he was a rapper. I didn't know that. I hated Tom Green. I did. I have to admit, like I maybe caught an episode in passing of the Tom Green show, and I hated it because I'm like, so we're not getting music on MTV because of this shit. No. And then I had a huge crush on Drew Barrymore, and I'm like, this is the guy that marries Drew Barrymore? Really? And then I watched Freddie Got Fingered, and because I'm a fan of Rip Torn and I'm a fan of Julie Haggerty, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, and I love Anthony Michael Hall, and I'm like, and then the Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausages? That still gets me in the backwards man. But I found myself laughing out loud a lot when they showed some of the old stuff, like the Slutmobile. Like, it's because of Tom Green. If you hate Jackass, you have Tom Green to blame.
Yeah. To his credit, he doesn't take credit for those things, but he allows the people who give him credit to kind of pontificate on his behalf. I have to say though, for all of this, for all of the self-indulgence and all of the reliving of a horrible period of time in which I'd like to erase from my memory, I have to say that the moments where he's much realer and when he's actually being a filmmaker, like there's some really, really wonderful like shots of his farm in Canada. There's a great shot of him saying goodbye to his house in LA where he's sitting there in front of a sunset that I just thought really, I mean, this guy has talent. He has an eye for doing these things and making these things seem very, seem like he knows what he's doing in a lot of respects.
Yes.
And that's a credit to him. I get, I mean, a lot of people don't understand Andy Kaufman, and Tom Green kind of fits in that mold where you either get it or you don't get it, or you like it or you don't like it.
He's not traditionally funny. He's more traditionally annoying, but it's the things that he does and his reaction that's funny. Like, once again, we have YouTube pranksters. Thanks, Tom Green. But like the one scene where he goes to the old guy and he's like, well, where are you going? He's not being like what we know of YouTube pranksters now.
Yeah.
Where they are harassing people. He's just like, well, hey, where are you going? He's that buddy that picks with you all the time.
Yeah.
And he just knows when not to cross the line.
Yeah, I mean, as far as this movie goes, I found the cancer stuff very interesting. That was the realest. I really think that was my favorite moment in this film, because not only was it a real moment when he's crying about, looking back on that moment, but he shoots that so perfectly. The black background where he's kind of, and then he does this nice little pan reveal where he's got Glenn sitting next to him. I thought that was fucking brilliant. I really wish that he had a little bit more filmmaking prowess, because if he had started the movie with that premise or one of those shots like that, instead of I'm Tom Green and I ruled the 90s bullshit that he started with, this movie would have caught my attention a lot more, and I would have been more tolerant of the first hour, in which we're just watching the best of his gags, and then watching him belittle his parents about, didn't you like that? What'd you really feel about that kind of thing? And that kind of stuff just didn't interest me at all. It was shot well. It was nicely lit. The audio was great. I mean, all the technical things were fine with this thing. In fact, probably better than most documentaries in this vein. But I was so when I messaged you and I go, this is going to be a short conversation if this movie is like this for.
I'm actually surprised it's gone this long, to be honest.
That's where I'm at with this movie. I wish that the last 30 minutes of this movie
could have been the whole thing.
Well, at least at the beginning.
At least maybe if it would have started with if the last 30 minutes would have been the first 30 minutes. Then the self-flogging would not have been. I mean, I can agree with that to a certain extent. That was among my favorite parts of it too, because remember he was all over the place talking about having cancer, and I had lost my grandfather to cancer in 1996, so that wasn't funny to me at the time. But now, the Tom Green of now, the 50-year-old guy, it's like he was terrified. And that was literally the only way he knew how to cope, was to make it into a joke. And it also kind of helped because, back then, were guys having their testicles checked for cancer? No. Like, him going through that and publicizing it did a lot for health for individuals in our age brackets now.
I agree. I think there's some merit to how important he is in this in our landscape of our entertainment landscape, and also of certain things that, because of what he went through and who he was, we now are involved in and understand. And I appreciate that. I do really appreciate that. And I'm not trying to crap on the guy, but it's just not for me. The way that his humor is just not the kind of humor I enjoy.
It's not right.
And so,
I'm pretty sure we could sit here and have a great 3-way conversation with him now.
Yeah.
Tom Green, then you probably would kill him.
Yeah.
And I would have to be, and I'd be an accessory because I'm ride or die. But I will say this: I did appreciate the conversations when he's talking to his parents, he's talking to his friends. I like the way he was able to ask their opinion of what happened.
I found it fascinating for certain aspects of it, and looking back on it now, I probably found it a lot more fascinating than I let on when I was at the time I was watching it. But that's what happens when you when you do have moments that I think are actually very stellar in this. I think as a director, as a documentarian, even turning the camera on yourself, I felt like he did a fair and admirable job of doing that, and he was him for the entire thing, and I can't fault him for that, even though the him I really didn't care for in the first hour and a half. But the last 20 minutes I really found fascinating, and I really do think that this was a well done documentary in terms of all the technical aspects of it. So that's where I'm at with it.
Agreed.
When I play basketball, I feel like there's nothing that can stop me.
Come on, ladies, clean it up.
In a few minutes, we're going to play Providence. Ashley being a senior, I really hope we can show that maturity.
Oh!
God.
My mom raised me in Cambodia, and I raised Ashley here, so everything is different.
She's not patient enough. Sometimes it's too rushed.
If Ashley ends up taking 99% of shots, we're going to be in trouble.
So this next one was very frustrating at first. It was a frustrating watch at first, but Home Court was probably the biggest surprise for me. I'm glad that it wasn't what it was advertised to be. Like it was, but it wasn't. And I like what it focused on. Was it Ashley Chea? But this follows her junior and senior years of high school. Now, for those that don't follow women's basketball, Ashley is the starting point guard for the Princeton University women's basketball team. And this is documenting her final 2 years of high school. She suffered a ACL tear or a PCL tear, one of the two. And then the documentary shows her recovering for her junior and her senior year.
Yeah.
And it discussed how, she's first generation Cambodian American. Not a lot of people of Asian descent are playing basketball, and they definitely touch on that.
Yeah.
And it sort of shows the frustrations that she had living at home and dealing with her parents who are, her and her mother had sort of this distant relationship, but how she grows up before our eyes to become one of the most sought after female basketball prospects in the country.
The two things that really struck me about this movie were, I thought at the beginning they were following the wrong subject, but I'm glad that they stuck with Ashley throughout this thing, because Coach Jamie was the most interesting thing about this movie for the first 45 minutes. And then
Agreed.
And then
Ashley was so annoying in the first.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, she's a 16, 17-year-old girl. And so I think what I really, really appreciated was that they didn't hit you over the head with how she grew up. Like how you see her mature and become the woman that she is. But it's there and it's very apparent. Like all the basketball stuff, and it's both on and off the court where you see that, which I really thought was really spectacularly well done by the filmmakers. That choice is impeccable. And I actually really thought that the way that they shot the basketball games was pretty interesting too. On a level floor, basically shooting a down end, one camera down end to the other down end, and not really going very much into close-ups very often. The only time that you do is when she's doing some spectacular dribbling, and she ropes these two girls who are trying to crowd her in one of the best dribbles I've ever seen.
Yo, she crossed them, bro. She crossed them up. Like, oh my God. Her handles are so, like, as an athlete, as a student of the game, she is amazing. Yeah. Like, I can't wait in the next 2 years to see her in the WNBA playing against, a Caitlin Clark what's Angel Reese.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, granted, there are other, top female basketball players, but those are the names that jump out at me right now. Like, she's not playing against Lisa Leslie because Lisa Leslie's on retired, but because she's very good at what she does, and she's very fundamentally sound. Her jump shot is so just dynamite. Like, her shooting form is impeccable. Like, she is amazing.
But as far as the narrative goes, I think it tells a 3-act story very, very well here. You've got the inciting incident, of them. Spoiler. I mean, you could look this up, so it's not that big of a spoiler. They lose the championship. They lose the championship for the first time in school's history in the last 20 years, and that leaves a sour taste in all of their mouths. And it's about the redemption arc after that comes toward it, but also about her growing up and having to grow up to get to that.
And she grew up a lot, because I was messaging you getting mad. Yeah, I'm like, yo, this girl is entirely too soft to be playing basketball. Like, she's crying because no one understands, and I get nervous about communicating, and it's like, baby, you better suck that shit up.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I'm like, what are we watching here? And then it's like when she goes to her senior year and she starts to conduct herself better, and she's not like whining at her coaches, and she's just like, she's a fiery,
she's taking over huddles, and it's
she's a leader, and and she's really good at what she does. I did appreciate, them discussing how, the Asian community on the West Coast and in Southern California, and how they started playing in their own leagues. Yeah. Which I thought I never knew. Yeah. And then
the history in this movie that's revealed is
it's amazing. Well done. It's amazing. And I'll tell you what, when they told the story about how when the Asian girls, when they went to go play in a tournament, and the other team was making fun of them, and look, we can be very rude in our trash talk. Okay. Yeah. We can be very rude in our trash talk, and it's not cool. And I was glad when they said, and then, 5 minutes into the game, we're up by 15, and they knew they had to respect us. I'm like, good. I do. Like you said, I appreciate the history. I also appreciate how the coach was able to draw parallels to her upbringing with Ashley's, and how she was able to be a good role model and mentor to her.
This was a passing of a baton story. It was Coach Jamie passing the baton over to Ashley. And it's very apparent. It's very well done to make that transition. But what's interesting, too, is that there is a catalyst to this, and it's her father. And her father, and kind of her, leaving him in the dust a little bit. There's this great scene when he's all alone shooting basketballs, and you just get this moment when he realizes he's now all by himself. He's all alone.
His son is way too young.
It is really well. This documentary does not disturb the premise of what it's trying to capture. It doesn't force you to think about these things or force you to think one way or the other about Asians in basketball. All it is doing is presenting you with pictures, and whatever you interpret from these pictures is what you get from it. And that, I feel like that's a documentary's purpose. That is the truth of a documentary at its core. And this is one of those that does that so incredibly well.
The storytelling, the camera angles, the interviews. Now, some of the interviews were that annoying interview style, but that even improves as it goes on. Yeah. I think of these three, this is probably my favorite, because it's really showing. I like seeing her growth as a person. I also like seeing how her mother even changed toward her. The one thing that really sort of bugged me, I have to say, is, when they were talking about how, well, you're never there and you don't tell me you love me and blah, blah, blah. And it took me back to, my mother telling me about how my uncle would say the same thing, how my grandfather didn't play with them and telling me he loved them. And it's like, because parents in, different generations, that's not how they showed love.
Right.
They showed love by going to work and providing.
Right.
To make sure that their kids had more than they did. Now, we can look at it in a modern day lens and say, well, listen, it's important for your child to know how you're thinking and what you're feeling. And it's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. But it's also not fair to villainize the previous generation either, because, there are many of them that were just doing the absolute best they could with what they knew. And I'm pretty sure when our kids are old, there's going to be ways that they look at how we as Gen X and millennials parent our kids. And, every generation has a way that they are scrutinized.
It is very powerful. It tells the story it wants to tell, and it tells it in a manner in which you are left with the interpretation and not given the interpretation, which I think is the perfect example of how a documentary should work. And I really feel like this movie really gives you that foundation for documentary filmmaking. If you were to look at documentary filmmaking,
it does a good job at tugging at the heartstrings. Not perfect, but you know what? Very, very enjoyable. Definitely give it a watch.
From the director of Time Bandits and 12 Monkeys comes the adventure of Don Quixote.
Cut. What's going on? I've been fantasizing this for a very long time.
He gets tangled and whoop off his horse.
The budget is half the money we need.
The LBO things so they can walk down.
Captain Chaos is completely in his element.
Really violent.
This film is in complete disarray.
We've got costumes and sets, but no actors. I've got an actor. I have an actor.
Roll camera. Your horse about to move. Come on, horse. Come on, horsey. Cut!
A very strange weather today.
There's a large bunch of lightning about to hit us.
Everything that can go wrong goes wrong.
Yes!
Nobody seems to be in control of anything.
We can't make the film. Not the film you want to make.
DOS, wreck on set. You fiddle with the fish.
What were you thinking?
There's the trailer for the film right there. Coming soon.
And cut it.
we just saw the trailer to the movie that I have subjugated Bryan to today. It's a film that I saw back in when it was first out at the Austin Film Festival, and it's it's self-indulgent in a different manner, but it is also like every filmmaker's waking nightmare. I mean, everything that could possibly go wrong in this movie or just not work is exactly what happens to Terry Gilliam in this movie. And yes, I will admit, here and now, having watched it a second time now 20 years later, a lot of it is on him. He does a lot of it to himself, but I do still empathize with the plight of the filmmaker and in a lot of this respectable.
He was eventually able to get it done.
You can't control what happens to your actor.
You can't control your actor's health. You can't control the weather.
Yeah,
and you can't control insurance companies either.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, I'll tell you what. This
or the curse of Don Quixote either.
Right. I'll tell you what. Now,
this is Lost in La Mancha, by the way.
Lost in La Mancha, yeah. And I'll tell you what. We both know I'm not a filmmaker at all. It is. I can BS my way through a conversation about the logistics of filmmaking. Storytelling, oh man, I can talk with anybody. And I can know, but this documentary made me appreciate the filmmaking process so much. And it also tells me, I learned that for all of my favorite movies and least favorite movies, all the crap that you filmmakers out there, God bless you, because you go through hell to get your craft done. And with this, it was almost like peeking behind the curtain to see how the sausage is made. To see how the business end of things, like whenever those of us like those that
this destroys movie kayfabe.
It really does. But for guys like me who love movies, but I don't know anything about filmmaking. When I hear about what's going on, like say with the MCU Blade or this movie or this other movie, and all the stuff they get, why is that getting canceled? Can't they get the job done? Like, what the hell is wrong with these people? I don't think we appreciate what filmmakers go through. And when I say we, I mean me and everyone else watching this that doesn't make films. Joe knows how this stuff works. Joe is a real filmmaker.
And a lot of this has happened to me.
Right.
Believe it or not.
I just like watching movies. Joe knows how to make movies. Okay. That is the biggest difference. When we talk movies, y'all, you got to understand, I'm talking from a writer's perspective. I'm talking from a storyteller's perspective as a guy who watches movies. Joe is talking to you as someone who has acted, has directed, has written. He is a filmmaker. I'm just a guy that talks movies. And I'm watching this and I'm like, oh my God. I never would have thought that they would have to worry about the weather. Now I understand why they do things on sound stages. Now I understand why they do stuff in studios. Now I understand why going on location is a nightmare. You know, I think now I can fully appreciate why Peter Weller did not come back for the third RoboCop. And even when we see Johnny Depp sort of flipping out a little bit, and it's like he's trying to be cool, but he's so frustrated. And you never see that in Johnny Depp when we see him in interviews, or I think the only other time that I recall Johnny Depp being like that, not acting, was in the early 90s when River Phoenix passed. But the whole point that I'm making is that this documentary made me so appreciate the filmmaking process.
Well, good. I'm glad that's what you got out of it. I mean,
I did. I learned something.
I will tell you that one thing that I do follow Terry Gilliam on is that, you may know you're making something bad, or something bad is going on to the point where it's just, you're not going to recover from it, but you never give up on it. And I think that was the thing that Terry Gilliam really, really presses forward with anything he's doing, is that he believes he can fix it. Sometimes you just can't put enough duct tape on something, and it's just not gonna, it's gonna blow away.
So I'm very excited for y'all to join us in May, because I'm actually introducing Joe to another one of my all-time favorite indie films. He liked how Black Circle Boys felt because of the gritty in the 90s. I'm excited to see how much he loves my pick for May. Yeah.
And you'll find that out in May. So everybody come and join us, and we'll save you a seat. And why, Bryan?
It's always a good time to go into now.
It goes into, the storyboards not matching the product line. Like that bad joke in Spinal Tap with Stonehenge. It happens in this movie too, and this is real. This is a real movie where the prop doesn't match what Terry Gilliam had in his head, and it's like holy crap, dude! This is the Stonehenge gag from Spinal Tap